Hello, my name is Joshua, and it's my night to share a word with my family again. And tonight I will be reading in Proverbs chapter 27, starting with verse 1. Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring forth. Let another praise you, and not your own mouth, a stranger, and not your own lips. A stone is heavy, and sand is weighty, but a fool's provocation is heavier than both. Wrath is cruel, anger is overwhelming, but who can stand before jealousy? Better is open rebuke than hidden love. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, profuse are the kisses of an enemy. He who is sated loathes honey, but to one who is hungry, everything bitter is sweet. Like a bird that strays from its nest is a man who strays from his home. Oil and perfume make the heart glad, but the soul is torn by trouble. Your friend and your father's friend do not forsake, and do not go to your brother's house in the day of your calamity. Better is a neighbor who is near than a brother who is far away. Be wise, my son, and make my heart glad, that I may answer him who reproaches me. A prudent man sees danger and hides himself, but the simple go on and suffer for it. Take a man's garment when he has given surety for a stranger, and hold him in pledge when he gives surety for foreigners. He who blesses his neighbor with a loud voice, rising early in the morning, will be counted as cursing. A continual dripping on a rainy day and a contentious woman are alike. To restrain her is to restrain the wind, or to gasp oil in his right hand. Iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. He who tends a fig tree will eat its fruit, and he who guards his master will be honored. And I'm going to start reading right there for now. And so I'm going to go back to the beginning at verse 1. It says, Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring forth. Now, obviously, we know that we don't ourselves know what the future holds. And I believe one thing that God was telling me is that He does know, which is why we need to rely on Him to lead and guide us through anything that we're going through. Because obviously, God knows the future all the way to the end of time or until His returning, and then even farther than that. So if He knows what is going to happen, why should we not ask Him or rely on Him to lead and guide us through every situation? He knows the best escape. He knows the best route to take to get to your destination. He knows the best outcomes for you. And so if you listen to God's instructions, He's going to help you get to the best place that you can be, because He knows exactly what's going to happen. And so since we don't know, we should rely on the Lord because He does know. And it says in verse 2, Let another praise you, and not your own mouth, a stranger, and not your own lips. Now, obviously, we know it's important to be humble and not let yourself get up in pride. And here, I would say even more important than a stranger praising you, it's important that you let the Lord praise you. So our goal shouldn't be to satisfy ourselves, but our goal should be to get the Lord to praise us by us obeying His commandments and obeying His will for our lives. Because if we get to the point where the Lord is praising us, then that's the best place you can be in. Because who better to please than the Lord? And so that should be one of our goals, is to get the praise of the Lord instead of the praise of ourselves, because we can do things that we might think are great. Like if you might have something you want to get done, some ambition that you want to complete, and you do that thing and you feel good. But if you're not pleasing the Lord, it doesn't mean anything, because the Lord is ultimately who's going to decide where you go, whether it's heaven or hell. So if you're pleasing yourself instead of pleasing the Lord, then the end goal that all of us should have, which is heaven, you're not going to get any closer to that goal. You're just going to be fulfilling your desires here on earth. But if we are getting the praise from the Lord, then we'll be getting closer to the destination that we desire. At verse 5 it says, Better is open rebuke than hidden love. And I guess one thing that comes to my mind is that, is it really love if you're not correcting someone? Because obviously lots of times people think that you need to talk nicely to someone, or you need to compliment people or reassure them of what they're thinking to be loving. But if you truly love someone, you want to see them do their best. You don't want to see them just be having a good attitude or having a good assumptions about themselves. You want to see them actually succeed in what they're doing, which means that if you see them doing something wrong or failing in one area in their life or in their job or whatever it is, then the way that they're going to succeed is if you give them the correction they need to improve in that area. So love isn't just reassuring people of what their thoughts are. Love would be telling them what needs to be said so that they can succeed at whatever it is they're doing, which is what the Lord wants us to do. He wants us to succeed, especially in the areas that He's put us in. Because if we don't succeed, then what the Lord wants to accomplish isn't going to get done. Meaning that whatever area someone needs correction is to succeed in what the Lord has put at their hands to do, they need the correction to happen. And so if that correction doesn't happen, then they're not going to succeed. So it's important that if you truly love someone and you see an area or God's telling you an area that they need to be corrected in, it's important to correct it and not just let it keep slipping away. Next, at verse 7, it says, "He who is sated loathes honey, but to one who is hungry, everything bitter is sweet." And that's one of the ones that stuck out to me the most, because it's like, there could be someone who's rich and they have all these things, but then they keep wanting more and more. And the thing that they desire is something extremely high. Whereas a person who is poor, who doesn't have much, who is used to just crumbs, something they desire could be just a loaf of bread. And that loaf of bread could mean just as much to them as a rich person wanting a new house. And so it's all in comparison to what you have. So people who have less, something that is small to someone who's rich is huge to them. And so it's important that no matter where we are at in our life, we need to be thankful for everything we have, because God's going to give us what we need. And so we need to be content with what God has given us and not try to strive for more, because that more that we might be striving for might not be what God wants us to have. And even if we do get more, it's important that we do with it what God wants us to do. Because if there is someone who is poor, who maybe this thing means so much more to them, how much more useful would it be in their hands than in yours? And so it's important that when we are given extra, especially of things that we want or desire but don't really need, it's important to do with it what God wants us to do with it, because it can mean so much more to someone who has less than us. And at verse 8, it says, "Like a bird that strays from its nest is a man who strays from his home." And one thing, if you look up about a bird that strays from their nest, if a bird strays from their nest before they're ready, then they're going to be in more danger than if they were ready. Because if there's a baby bird that goes out into the wilderness and they can't fly, they're more susceptible to being attacked by other animals, predators, things like that. Whereas if it's a bird who can fly, they're able to get away from all these things that are coming after them. And you can relate that to our lives, because if we are in a place that God wants us at, and then we leave that place, we're not ready to leave, or God hasn't fully prepared us yet, then we're going to be more susceptible to the things of the world. Whether it's things that are going to try to disrupt your mind, or to possess you, or to get you to do wrong things, we're going to be way more susceptible to those things if we're not fully prepared and ready for God to actually send us out. Which is why it's important to stay still with wherever God has you at, instead of trying to leave too early and get away from what you think you need to be getting away from.
Yeah.